Well, hello, Windy Arbor School. How are you? Now, I was meant to come over and see you today, or another day if you're watching this on a day that isn't the day I was meant to come over. But because we've got to be careful again, or more careful again, I'm staying here. So I'm in Three Trees. We've got a little room which we call the chapel, or the quiet room. And it tends to be quite quiet, hence the name. See, quiet room, quite quiet. This time of year, it's full of stuff. So we've collected toys a couple of weeks back. It's full of toys that then we gave out to an organisation that gives the toys. And then it was filled with mince pies, because we were collecting mince pies for our mince pie based events. And now it's filled with bits of paper. But with the magic of the camera, it looks like it's just a really nice room. We've got a wooden tree, but then most trees are wooden, aren't they? And I've lit the Advent candles. Now, Advent candles are a tradition within the Christian church, where each Sunday leading up to Christmas, you light a candle and you remember different things. So you kind of retell the story of Christmas as you go through. So the first one we lit, which is the lowest burnt one, that is to remind us of, to remind us of our ancestors in the faith. So people that have gone before, who've told us and shared with us their knowledge and their experiences and their wisdom and their faith. So we light a candle to remember them. The second one, we lit to remember the prophets. That's that one. And the third one, do you know what? I can't remember what the third one was. But next time you see me, tell me. I should remember because it only happened yesterday. Although, with the magic of the TV, it only happened yesterday, although I'm recording this before it's actually happened. So it gets very confusing, doesn't it? It's like time travel when you record a film. You know, I'm recording it now and then it's going to travel into the future. Mind you, we're all time travelers, aren't we? Because we all travel through time, don't we? It's just we can't really change that very much. Anyway, I'm going to do that thing now. I start blowing my mind again, aren't I? I was with year 5 last week and they told me about the different zones under the sea and I didn't know anything about that. And they got really cool names, like was it the daylight zone and the twilight zone and the midnight, and this is some, it's amazing stuff. I love coming into Windy Arbor School because you kind of, I like the way we kind of all share what we know. It's good, isn't it? Anyway, I was going to come in today, right? And I was going to tell you the Christmas story. Now, normally I like just to tell a story, as you probably know. Sometimes I'll read a story and sometimes I like to just tell it. Now, if I'd come in, I would have just told it and I would have just wandered up and down telling the story. But because I'm not coming in, I'm going to read it. I'm going to read someone else's version of it. But before I read the story, let's just pause for a moment and consider and think about and just be still. We're in the quiet room. We're in the chapel now. So let's just be quiet for a moment. So before we begin the story, just imagine you could step back and see the universe. Imagine that. Just see all the stars in the sky. And we're just a tiny planet in a tiny corner of this massive universe. And the story we're going to hear is about how important we are, even though we're very small. Our tiny planet and our lives are so important, and we've been noticed. We're not alone. And despite how sometimes we feel, we are not forgotten in the midst of all these stars. This is the story of Christmas. There's lots of ways it's been told, right? And you've probably heard different ways it's been told. Here's one of my favourite tellings. But it always begins. There was a young girl who was engaged to a man named Joseph. Now Joseph, get this, was the great-great-great-great-great grandson of King David. Now, some of you, I told a story about King David. In fact, I've been to a couple of classes where I told the story of David and Goliath. Do you remember that story? Goliath was this massive giant, and he had 6 fingers on each hand. Anyway, that's another detail. But King David, when he fought the giant Goliath, was still a boy. He was only little. I think the kind of impression is he was little all of his life. But anyway, he fought the giant, but he became a great king in Israel, and a great hero of the Jewish faith, and a great hero of the Christian faith as well. He made a lot of mistakes, but he always tried to do what was right, except when he was making mistakes. But when he made mistakes, he realized that and tried to put things right. Anyway, so Joseph was the great grandson of King David. One morning, the young girl who was engaged to the man named Joseph was minding her own business when suddenly a great warrior of light appeared in her bedroom. He was Gabriel, and he was an angel, a special messenger from heaven. When she saw the tall, shining man standing there, Mary, because that's who it is, was frightened. Look, I've even got a picture. That's quite a good picture, isn't it? If you like pictures. You don't need to be scared, Gabriel said. God's very happy, and he's happy with you. Mary looked around to see if he was talking to anyone else. Mary, Gabriel said, and he laughed with such a gladness that Mary's eyes filled with sudden tears. Mary, you're going to have a baby, a little boy, and you'll call him Jesus. He's God's own son. He's the one. He's the rescuer. The God who flung planets into space and kept them whirling around and around. The God who made the universe with just a word. The one who could do anything at all was making himself small. He was coming down as a baby. Wait. God was sending a baby to rescue the world? But it's too wonderful, Mary said, and felt her heart beating hard. How can it be true? Is anything too wonderful for God? Gabriel said. So Mary trusted God more than what her eyes could see, and she believed, I'm God's servant. Whatever he says, let it happen. Now, sure enough, it was just as the angel said. 9 months later, Mary was almost ready to have the baby. Now, Mary and Joseph had to make a trip to Bethlehem, the town that King David was from. But when they reached the little town, they found every room was full. Every bed was taken. Go away, the innkeepers told them. There isn't any place for you. So where would they stay? Because soon Mary's baby's going to come. They couldn't find it anywhere except an old tumble-down stable. So they stayed where the cows and the donkeys and the horses stayed. And there, in the stable, amongst the chickens and the donkeys and the cows, in the quiet of the night, God gave the world this wonderful gift. The baby that would change the world, and Jesus did. Jesus changed history. This baby was born, his baby's son. Now Mary and Joseph wrapped him up to keep him warm, and they made a soft bed of straw, and they used the animal's feeding trough as his cradle. And they gazed in wonder at God's great gift, wrapped in swaddling clothes and lying in a manger. Mary and Joseph named him Jesus, Emmanuel, which means God has come to live with us. Because, of course, he had. Anyway, there's more. I'm not going to tell you the whole story, but I like this next bit. Because that same night, in among the other stars, suddenly a bright new star appeared. Of all the stars in the dark, vaulted heavens, this one shone clearer. It blazed in the night and made the other stars look pale beside it. God put it there when his baby son was born, to be like a spotlight shining on him, lighting up the darkness and showing people the way to him. Now, God had sent an angel to tell Mary the good news. He put a special star in the sky to show where the boy was. And now he was going to send a big choir of angels to sing his happy song to the world. He's here. He's come. Go and see him. My little boy. Now, where would you, Windy Arbor School, where would you send your splendid choir? To a big concert hall, maybe? Or a palace? Well, I don't know, perhaps send it to the Queen? Perhaps get them to sing outside McDonald's, I don't know. Where would you send your choir? Because God sent his to a tiny hillside outside a tiny town in the middle of the night. He sent all those angels to sing for a raggedy bunch of old shepherds watching their sheep outside of Bethlehem. In those days, remember, people used to laugh at shepherds and call them names. They said they were smelly and call them all sorts of names that actually I can't repeat here because, we try and be polite, don't we, about people. You see, people thought shepherds in those days were just nobodies, just scruffy riff-raff. But God must have thought the shepherds were very important indeed, because they're the ones he chose to tell the good news to first. And that night, some shepherds were out in the open fields, warming themselves by a campfire, when suddenly the sheep ran for it. They were frightened by something. The olive trees rustled. What was that? Was it a wing beat? It's the shepherds having a sleep. Tell you what, boom! I love that picture. They turned around and standing in front of them was a huge warrior of light, blazing in the darkness. "Don't be afraid of me," said the big scary man. Said the bright shining man, "I haven't come to hurt you. I've come to bring you happy news for everyone, everywhere. Today in David's town, in Bethlehem, God's son has been born. You can go and see him. He's sleeping in a manger." Behind the angel, they saw a strange glowing cloud, except it wasn't a cloud. It was even more angels. Troops and troops of angels armed with light, and they were singing a beautiful song. Glory to God be fame and honour, and a big bunch of hoorays. Then as quickly as it appeared, the angels left. The shepherds stamped out the fire, left their sheep, raced down the grassy hill, through the gates of Bethlehem, down the narrow cobbled streets, through a courtyard, down some steps, past an air, round a corner, through a hedge, until at last a tumble-down stable. And they caught their breath. And then quietly they tiptoed inside. And they knelt on the earth floor. They'd heard about this promised child, and now he was here. Heaven's son, the maker of the stars, a baby sleeping in his mother's arms. And this baby would be like that bright star that was shining in the sky above them. A light to light up the whole world, chasing away darkness, helping people to see. And the darker the night got, the brighter the star would shine. Now, there's a bit more to the story, don't you? Because in all the cards and the nativity plays, he gets 3 more visitors, doesn't he? The baby Jesus. We won't tell that story now because I think that's quite enough of the story. But follow it up. Find out. If you're in the nativity play, find out what the wise men did, where they came from. Why did God call the kings as well? But Christmas is an important time because we remember. As Christians, we remember that God sent this great gift to us to show us how to live, how we should treat one another, how we should behave, and also to show us how much that God loves us. And that's why Christmas in our country and lots of countries across the world, when we celebrate it, it's important that we come together, friends and family, and we share things together and we exchange gifts. Christmas is about celebrating all that's good in our world and all that's good in our lives. So I hope you have a great Christmas. I hope you kind of feel that warm glow. And I hope you feel that you're loved and know that you are loved this Christmas. So have a great time. Hopefully I'll see you in the new year, if I don't see you before the end of term. But God bless. Have a good break at Christmas time. Enjoy the rest of the days before the school breaks up. And I'll see you soon. Take care now. Bye-bye.